Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk Podcast. Back after a week break, and that means that there is a lot to talk about. Euro 2020 is well and truly on, and also we reached the final two. We finally know who will be competing for the Stanley Cup, and well, for a lot of our Toronto listeners, it's probably going to be hard to pick who they would rather win or rather lose, or anyways, we'll get into all of that and a lot more. As always, I'm Labi, joined by Jacob. How you doing today?
Doing better. School's done, so it's summer break for me now. Just finished yesterday.
There you go. Big congratulations.
Big dubs, big dubs. Now we got some sports to talk about, which is even better.
Yeah, speaking of big dubs, just like everyone predicted, the Montreal Canadiens are the Western Conference champions.
Yep, that's weird to hear. The Western Conference champions are the Montreal Canadiens. Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, technically not, because there's no Eastern Western Conference this
yeah,
year, but they were given the Prince of Wales Trophy, which is oh no, they were given the Clarence
Clarence.
Campbell Bowl, which is typically awarded to the Western Conference champion. So I think it's just so funny that a team that's been around for like over 100 years has finally won a trophy for the first time, just because it was a trophy that they weren't eligible to win ever before.
Yeah, it's honestly good for Montreal. You know, they deserve to be here. They came back from 3-1 down against the Leafs. They swept the Jets and they beat Vegas in 6. And a
Yeah,
big
so let's talk about that Vegas series. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't know if I said this on tape. I know I definitely said this. You might have to go back to 2 weeks ago. I said Montreal in 6 because I believe that look at teams like Toronto and Winnipeg who are very heavily offensive. Montreal was able to frustrate them and stop them from coming into the neutral zone and being able to set up. And Montreal's power play is 31 for 31 in their last 31 attempts. So penalty kill I meant. So they're a frustrating team to play against. Their defense and Weber and Sherratt, they've been stellar, and they can't really get anything going in the neutral zone. And it's simple as the young guns are playing up to their potential. Cole Caulfield, aka Gold Caulfield, has been absolutely outstanding for them. Josh Anderson seems to have found his groove again. Nick Suzuki's playing out of his mind. Like, and we can't forget the person who got them there, Carey Price. Like he's played so much better. He's better than his 2014 form because he made the finals this year. And honestly, I wouldn't doubt seeing Montreal doing the same thing to Tampa and frustrating them on the power play, on the penalty kill, and even just in 5-on-5.
Yeah, I think the craziest statistic is the Habs have more shorthanded goals that scored for than they have power play goals against in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which is I don't understand how that's even possible. Yeah, no, I mean to your point, I think that there have really been four key factors to the Montreal Canadiens getting here. One is that they're committed defensive effort, and that means everyone. And I know I've talked about him time and time again, but I keep coming back to him. Philip Deneau needs more respect, man. The guy's just a shut down forward. Like we talked about how Mark Stone did such a tremendous job neutralizing Nathan MacKinnon in the second round. Well, Philip Deneau actually made Mark Stone look invisible. I did not see Mark Stone that entire series. Offensively, defensively, he did absolutely nothing. And I'm a huge Mark Stone fan. I think he's a top 10 player in the league. And so for Philip Deneau, and like the Montreal Canadiens collectively, but I mean, Philip Deneau is the main guy against him at center. That's a huge testament to how talented this, like, Philip Deneau is. And then the defensive effort behind him as well. I mean, the Montreal offense are pretty good defensively. Shea Weber is Shea Weber. Jeff Petry's Jeff Petry. They're both playing through what I can only imagine seem like pretty serious injuries. And the depth defense with the Montreal Canadiens has been solid. Number two is, like you mentioned, is they're getting scoring, and they're getting scoring up and down the lineup consistently, and they're getting scoring from guys who, like you said, really needed to step up, and Cole Caulfield especially. Like I was joking around. I tweeted Cole Caulfield is what the Leafs fans thought what's his name?
Nick
Oh my,
Robertson.
Nick Robertson would be a couple of years ago when you brought him in for his NHL debut. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, what I mean by that is I don't think anyone expected Cole Caulfield to actually play a meaningful role in this team. Like, sure, does he deserve to be in the lineup? Yes, but I don't think anyone thought that he would be scoring big goals and playing big minutes. I mean, the guy literally was playing college hockey at the start of this year, and he's stepped up and he's been absolutely phenomenal. Number 3, like you said, is Carey Price. I mean, Carey Price has been exactly what you expect Carey Price to be in the playoffs. He had a very bad regular season, and a lot of people, me included, were calling him out on it, because he can play better than that. And, clearly he's showing that right now, because he is playing arguably the best hockey of his career, realistically. And then the fourth thing is, like you also mentioned, is that penalty kill. I mean, it's really hard, especially with the way that the officiating goes in the playoffs. And I mean, I'll just go on record and say I thought that the refereeing was awful. And I thought that the officiating was pretty biased towards Vegas. Like, I think, like, the majority of the really bad calls typically went against Montreal. Like, I don't know how they missed the slash on Corey Perry in the overtime. And look, I know it's overtime and refs don't call penalties in overtime, but, like, his nose was basically broken. Like, there's not calling penalties because it's overtime playoff hockey, and then I just saw a guy get whacked in the face with a stick. Like, that is, like, I have to call that as a penalty. But despite that, well, anyways, what I mean to say is, with the way that the games are officiated in the playoffs, power plays and penalty kills become even more important because there aren't a lot of them. So if you can take advantage, it's a huge difference. And like you said, Montreal's 39 for their last 39, you said?
31 for the 31.
31 for the last 31, and they're 93.5% for the playoffs, which is I just checked. It's the best it's the best single playoff penalty kill percentage all time since they started keeping track of penalty killing in the NHL. And so when you put all those factors together, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I thought that this team was going to be here, but when you look at how they've played, I don't think it's a stretch to say they deserve to be here. I mean, I thought that they definitely outplayed Winnipeg, they definitely outplayed Vegas, and they outplayed Toronto in those last 3 games. The first 5 games of the playoffs, they weren't that great. And I mean, not to continue to rub this in, but realistically, Toronto really should have buried them in that series up 3-1. And maybe it would be the Leafs here, maybe it would be Vegas here, we don't know. But I think from game 5 onwards, Montreal have been a lights out hockey team.
For anyone who says Montreal is like a serious underdog, does not seen a single game Montreal's played this season. And I don't think there's an argument of Carey Price being better. Like, there's no argument saying he is the best hockey he's played in his career. It is the best hockey. There's no argument there. He's the best goalie right now he's ever been. Honestly, I think Carey Price means more to the Canadians than Vasilevsky does to the Bolts, because the Bolts can score 8 goals we saw against the Islanders. Carey Price, if Montreal's have Carey Price, they're nowhere even close to the playoffs right now. So Carey Price's value, like, his contract looks good right now. And like you said, Philip Deneau and those guys make Mark Stone look absolutely invisible. Mark Stone had no goals. William Karlsson had no goals. Marchessault had 1. Pacioretty had 1 in 6 games.
I swear the entire forward core of the Vegas Golden Knights only had like 2 or 3 goals all series. All their goals were scored by defensemen.
The top 6 goals in the series were scored by the top 6 forward core. Only scored 2 goals in the entire series.
You can't win like that.
No.
You can't. I mean, when Alex Pietrangelo and Alec Martinez are your 2 most lethal scorers, you know that something's going on. And to pivot the conversation to Vegas, I mean, at what point do you have to address some serious concerns here? Because I'm seeing a pattern. when they faced Dallas last year in the playoffs, the goal scoring dried up. They could not score. And now they get to the same point, conference finals or Stanley Cup semifinals or whatever the fuck they're calling it this year, the round before the Stanley Cup finals, and the goal scoring dries up. There's I mean, when it happens 2 years in a row, you have to start to wonder what's the problem. And I mean, I think I've said it on this podcast, and if I haven't, I'm definitely going to say it now. Pete DeBoer's not the guy. He's not the guy.
No.
I mean, he had prime Thornton and Marlowe for however many years. He had prime Brent Burns back when he was actually an elite defenseman. That Sharks team was an absolute juggernaut, and they blew they blew a 3-0 lead against the Kings. They blew a 3-1 lead, I think, against the Blackhawks one year. They just choke after choke after choke after choke. And Vegas decides to hire him. Vegas hires him, and what's happened? They haven't been able to get over the hump. Pete DeBoer's not the guy. He's not the guy. And if you look at his resume, it looks good on paper. But the reason it looks good on paper is because he was the coach. He was the coach of two elite teams. That Sharks team was elite. This Vegas team is elite. So the fact that you're able to win a President's Trophy.
Don't forget, he also went to the finals with New Jersey years ago.
That was like that was one good year.
Yep.
I'll give him that. You know what? You're right. You know what? I'm not. If I'm burying the guy, I gotta give credit where he deserves it. That's fair enough. Fair enough. He gets credit with that New Jersey team.
That's the only
Although
time.
To be fair, that was what 2014.
No, I think it was earlier than that. 2012.
It might have been earlier. 2012. Yeah. That was when. I mean, they still had Martin Brodeur, so it's not like they had a bad team. I'll give him some credit.
But it goes to show he can't perform when you go in the long run. Lost that 2012 series to the Kings. Lost the 2016 to the Pens. And didn't even play he can't get there. He's not the guy to get you all the way.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, if you put any NHL caliber coach, if you sub in any NHL coach for Pete DeBoer with the Sharks, they'll be able to win a President's Trophy or clinch a 1 seed or get to the second round because the Sharks were one of the best teams in the NHL at the time. There's a reason why, after 4 or 5 years, the Penguins fire their coach if they don't make it past the second round, because that's not the expectation. There's a reason why the Capitals went out and got Barry Trotz, because they weren't okay with the second round. They knew that they were a good enough team to go further than that. What happens when they bring in a really good coach? They go all the way and win the Stanley Cup. Pete DeBoer's not the guy.
And then you look at what happened with the Islanders back-to-back. Yeah, granted they lost, but they took one of them to 7 games. And they only lost by 1. Like, you're just missing that little extra oomph at the end. Like, Barry Trotz is the best coach, and there's no argument there in the NHL right now. Obviously, you can say John Cooper or because...
No, and I think Gerard Gallant's number 2. I think Barry Trotz is number 1. I agree with you. I think Gerard Gallant's number 2. I think the New York Rangers are going to be an absolute horse next season. Yeah, absolute monster. See, I'm telling you now.
That's the thing, is we look at the Rangers last year and we're like, oh, they can make the playoffs as a fringe team, and they had their coach. And the coach wasn't good enough, and then they fired the coach. And when they brought in Gallant, I legitimately said they're going to make the playoffs next year because, first off, screw off Vegas for doing that, for firing him after a 3-game losing streak. Ridiculous. That's the second time he's been disrespected in his career. First from Florida, then from Vegas, and now the New York Rangers, a team that's on the up with Panarin. They got 2 good goaltenders, and I'm not even gonna try and pronounce the names. Gorgiev and Shesterkin. Yeah, thank you. I can never pronounce it. And then you got guys like Lafreniere and Adam Fox, who probably should win the Norris this season. Like,
deserves to win it, even if he doesn't.
Absolutely deserves to win it. So you got a young team here. You got a team with potential. You just need that one thing that was missing, which was the coach. The coaching. So it'll be really interesting to see what Gallant can do with those up-and-coming Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. That Team Canada World Championships team should have been nowhere near winning gold with just the lack of talent that was on. And that's no disrespect. I mean, obviously these guys are really quality NHLers, but what I'm saying is when you're talking about Team Canada and your best players on your rosters is Andrew Mangiapane, like, you clearly don't have the best possible Team Canada that you can have. And Gerard Gallant, no problem, wins gold medal. And no, obviously it's not all on the coaches. Like, for example, Andrew Mangiapane had a phenomenal tournament, and I think he finally got a lot of credit that, he's actually a very good player. He's not some, like, bottom six scrub. Like, the guy can play. But obviously coaching and system definitely, he made the most out of the weaker squad that he was given. And we've seen him do that countless times. And like you said, I want to make sure I have the timeline right. Did they fire him They fired him the season after the Sharks playoff?
Vegas?
Yes.
So, well, let's go back.
Because year one, they make the final.
2018, 2018 make the finals. 2019, they get eliminated in that stupid, crazy Game 7.
Yeah, the 5-minute misconduct, 4 power play goals.
2020, they get eliminated by Dallas.
The Stars.
And so it was
it last? It was before before the Stars. Like, it was that playoff run
in 2020,
which was the first
correct.
with DeBoer, right?
Yes, yeah, it was the season of 2019, 2020.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Gallant takes them to the finals their first year. The second year, they lose in the first round, but that whole Game 7 5-minute major debacle happens. And I mean, look, that's still an absolute choke by the Vegas Golden Knights. You gotta kill off the penalty,
but the penalty
whether it's deserved or not.
The penalty kill's not on DeBoer. That's on the special teams coach.
Yeah. Some blame definitely gets placed on Gallant, but you're right, not all of the blame. But then, like you said, to fire him in season 3, when they were still in a playoff spot at the time, it made no sense.
They were
in
the third.
Anyways,
they were in the third spot, and they just went on a 3-game losing streak, and they fired him.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to talk about is, what were your thoughts on the goaltending situation for Vegas? Because I don't think I think a lot of people were torn on, like, Fleury, absolute howler of a mistake in Game 3. Game 4 they go Leonard. Game 5 they go Fleury. Game 6 they go Leonard. What were your thoughts on how DeBoer handled the goaltender situation?
He didn't handle it. It was completely out of control in Montreal, and Montreal just completely capitalized. Don't get me wrong, Leonard played great for the games he was in. Like, he did absolutely great for what Vegas did. You should have stuck with Fleury. He was the guy who got you there. He was the guy. Sure, he made a mistake. The series wasn't over, though. It wasn't. It was 2-1 Montreal. Goes back, and I think Leonard started in Vegas, yeah? Yeah. No.
Yeah, Leonard started... No. Leonard started Game 4, which was in Montreal.
And then he wins.
And then Game 6 in Montreal. He started both games in Montreal.
So
Fleury starts Game 5 in Vegas.
Like, here's my thing. If you think Fleury's not going to do well, why put him back in Game 5? Is it because you're back home? Is that really going to change the way he plays? Probably not. It might affect it, but it won't change the way Fleury plays.
That was my understanding too. Yeah, I was surprised he went back to Fleury.
Yeah, what I would have done, I would have started with Leonard. Leonard got you the win in Game 4. He can probably get you the win in Game 5. And then if he doesn't work out in Game 5, then put Fleury back in Game 6. Stop doing this crap where you're going back and forth. How is that going to get any goalie's confidence up?
Yeah, I didn't like that from a goalie confidence perspective, from a team just gel perspective. Yeah. There is something worth saying. It's worth something where the team knows who's behind the net so that they can put all their faith behind that guy, right? Like, even if maybe he doesn't have the strongest game. And so I completely agree with you. I mean, like I said, I'm a Fleury fanboy. I'm going to admit it. He's literally my favorite player all time. So I definitely would have stuck with Fleury. But to your point, I agree with you. If you decide that Leonard's the guy for Game 4 and you pick up the win and you go into Game 5, you got to keep Leonard in the net. You can't pivot back and forth. So I was really shocked. I mean, I thought it was a mistake to leave out Fleury and start Leonard in Game 4, but I understand the decision, right? That's not where I'm being critical. I understand why he'd want to lean towards Leonard. You have 2 elite goalies. Fleury made a really bad mistake. You want to make the change, go ahead and make the change.
But then my question to you is, why start Fleury in Game 5?
Exactly. Then I don't understand that. If Leonard's your guy for game 4 and you get the win, I don't understand why Leonard's not your guy again in game 5. That just did not make any sense to me. And once again, I'm not here I don't want to turn this into the Peter DeBoer is a bad coach podcast, but I was just really, because also that's not only on Peter DeBoer, that's probably on the goalie coaches and just the whole organization as a collective. But I was shocked at, I mean, I just personally thought that the goalie situation was mismanaged, especially because this is on the backdrop of what happened last playoffs with the knife through Fleury's back and all that shit, because the same thing happened last year. The goalies became a distraction. And when you have two good goalies, that's normally looked at as a strength. But I think the way that Vegas has handled their goalie situation the last 2 years, they found a way to turn it into a weakness.
Yeah, I agree, and I think DeBoer overthought it. I think he thought just went too much into the analytics, and he didn't watch. Again, this might you can argue this goes back to like Tampa Bay. Remember when they pulled Blake Snell, Kevin Cash pulled Blake Snell because of analytics. Like, use your eyes. Leonard is by far the better goalie. At least he was playing like the better goalie. Like, don't go this wobbly back. Also, Fleury, that mistake, sure, it cost them the game. Didn't cost them the series. They weren't out of it. They got to go back to Vegas for at least one more game. Like, bounce back. Like, Marc-Andre Fleury is a
Yeah.
great goaltender. Like, why are you doing this to him?
And outside of that one mistake, I thought he had he had a phenomenal first 2 rounds of the playoffs. And he didn't have the greatest series against Montreal, but it wasn't bad. Like, sure, did he get outplayed by Carey Price? Yes, but like so far, every single goalie's
Yeah.
been outplayed by Carey Price thus far. And like I said, I don't think Vegas gets past Colorado if it wasn't for the performances of Marc-Andre Fleury.
And
So
because look at Leonard. Leonard goes in game. First off, I didn't understand why Leonard went in game 1 against the Avalanche when Fleury took him to. Fleury shut out the
that's a
Wild.
very good point. And they lost that game 7-0.
Yeah, they 7-1.
7-1. Sorry, 7-1.
So like my whole point is, this has been going. This controversy has been going on since game 1 of the second round, and then they stuck with Fleury and they won the series in 6. So why the hell are you doing this flip flop? Like, why were you so confidentless in this series against Montreal than you were against Colorado, a team that was arguably better than Montreal? It's a
Yeah, at least during the regular season. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I don't get it.
like the big question I ask is like, what was going through DeBoer's mind? Like, legitimately, what went through DeBoer's mind when he's like, I'm gonna put Leonard in net for game 4. Leonard did great. I'm going back to Fleury. Like, what was Leonard's and Fleury's reaction? Like, what the hell are you doing? And then he's like, you know what, Leonard didn't play the greatest. Fleury didn't play the greatest. Let's go back to Leonard. Like, what?
Yeah. Anyways, speaking of coaches and coaching decisions, completely pivoting, and then we will talk about Tampa Bay a little bit and preview the Stanley Cup Finals next. But what are your thoughts on the Seattle Kraken hiring Dave Haxtell to be the first head coach in franchise history?
Leafs legend, baby. Yeah, former Flyers coach and former Leafs assistant coach. Good for him, you know. I mean, he's a good coach. He can get you to the playoffs if you have the right talent, but I don't know if he can get you further than that. Good for him, you know. First coach in franchise history, and definitely not too shabby of one. So good luck to Seattle.
I think good for him sums it up. I think, speaking Hackstall, I think he's a hack. I mean, I don't understand this. Speaking of coaching hirings that I don't understand, I mean, obviously Gallant's off the board, but I'm pretty sure I've said it on the podcast. If not, I've definitely told you. I thought that Seattle should have been on the phone to Gerard Gallant months ago. Obviously, you miss out on him. I don't know what the coaching market is like. I mean, sure, would I mean, then I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, there's Dave Quinn. He didn't really do the best in New York, so I can understand maybe wanting to steer clear from him. There's John Tortorella. I can understand why, as a expansion team, you wouldn't want to go with Tortorella because, you know, you're bringing together players from all different teams. They need to gel together. I can see why Tortorella might not be the best guy for that. So, like, I can understand why they avoided maybe some other coaches, but I don't understand the Hackstall signing. Like, the guy was once again, you're the expert on this. What was he in charge of with the Leafs? Was it the power play?
He was an assistant coach that worked. No, Randy Malhotra was special teams. He was more like, I don't really know what. He was an assistant coach. Like, I don't really know how else to explain it.
Okay, so he's just an assistant coach. Okay,
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify that because I wasn't sure what his role was exactly. Um, so he was an assistant coach with the Leafs the last few years. Obviously, the Leafs haven't been doing too great. I mean, how much of that falls on coaching? How much of that falls on, like, we've discussed the Leafs' problems in great detail on this podcast.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about his coaching tenure previously with the Flyers. Now, the Flyers have a severe history of, well, just being awful recently, and just absolutely not making the most out of the players that they have. And so maybe I am being a little harsh on Hackstall, considering their coach now, Alain Vigneault, isn't doing much better. And honestly, if you look at Alain Vigneault's history, he's hasn't been the worst coach. Like, he's done some pretty impressive things in his career. I'm pretty sure he was the coach that got Vancouver
Yep.
to the finals all those
2011.
years ago, and
2011.
I believe he was the coach of the Rangers team that made the finals in 2014.
He was also part of that team, correct? Yes.
Yeah, so he has made some Stanley Cup Finals appearances, and they were with, like, not powerhouse teams. Like, sure, he had the Sedins in Vancouver, and sure, he had Lundqvist in New York, but I don't think those were necessarily, huge cup contending teams at the time. Now, granted, he did lose both of those series, but I don't think Alain Vigneault's a bad coach. And if you look at what he's done this year with the Flyers team, I mean, that franchise is a dumpster fire this year with everything's gone wrong. So, anyways, my point is, I don't know how much of the Flyers being bad was on Dave Haxtell when he was their coach, but he didn't have the best tenure. I honestly think this is just a very shot in the dark pick for coach.
You know, I
Like,
I think this could be good for him because, especially with the whole controversy in Toronto right now, with not performing in the playoffs, and maybe this is a way to kind of like restart for him. It's a restart for him. He wants to
oh
kind of.
no, absolutely,
Yeah,
it's
he
a
wants
great
to.
opportunity for him.
Go ahead, Lab.
I'm just saying, if I'm Seattle, I don't know if this is the first guy I want to hand the keys over to.
He can get you to the playoffs. Whether he gets you past the first, second, third, or round is up. I would argue is more to the players than the coaching, because as long as you get to the playoffs, you'll be fine. I'm more concerned of. I wonder how this is going to affect next season, because the everything's going to go back to the way it was. The Atlantic Division will come back, the Metropolitan, Pacific, and the what was the other one? Central. So.
Yeah, the Leafs are fucked. Both Stanley Cup Finals participants are in their division, and that doesn't even count the fact that Boston's going back in their division too,
Yeah,
and Florida.
isn't that crazy to think that it's going back and you're gonna get all these good ass teams in one division?
Are the Leafs the fifth best team in the Atlantic? What?
Well, I mean, Montreal. I don't know how long they can sustain
I'm
this.
joking.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I'm just saying I don't think Montreal can sustain it. However, if Cole Caulfield can develop properly, he could be a Leaf killer in the future. I wouldn't doubt. But anyways,
Definitely.
my point is, I think for him, I actually think it's good. It was low key. No one really knew it was coming, and I think for Hackstall, it's good. It's a good way to say, okay, I want to start new. I'm gonna, coach to the best of my ability, and we're gonna have a system, and we're gonna see if it works.
Absolutely. I mean, the last thing I'll say on this is, maybe I am judging this a bit too harshly, because I mean, it's a legitimate question of, like, what the expectation is going to be for the Seattle Kraken, because what was the expectation for the Vegas Golden Knights going into their first season was, hey, let's just have fun. If we win games, we win games. And then it turned out that they were an absolute horse and made it all the way to the finals. So, like, I don't, like, know, because are Seattle going to come out with the same, okay, we're an expansion team, we're just going to look for slow, steady improvement, and we're not going to try to win right away, like a normal expansion team would probably want to set? Or is that Vegas Golden Knights debut season just stuck in the back of everyone's minds, where the expectation is, now this team can be good right away, Vegas proved it, so now you have to be good right away? So, I mean, I don't know what that expectation is. But I agree with you. I think that if Seattle try to take things slow and look for slow, natural development and building a culture and growing a team, it's a great, like you said, it's a great opportunity for Haxtell. And if the season one expectations are low, maybe he can grow into the role. You're right. Maybe I am being too harsh on him. Maybe I should reserve some judgment, and he can grow in and do a good job there.
Oh,
I mean, I obviously hope that he does a good job. I mean, it would be nice to see Seattle. Now, granted, I don't want to see another Vegas situation. Like, I don't want to see Seattle be, elite right away, but it would be nice if eventually Seattle grows into a good hockey team. I mean, I think they're going to be a great market for hockey, no matter what.
I think
So
the problem with Vegas was they were so good for so fast, and they haven't really faced any failures except this year. And they're very arrogant and ignorant, and a lot of their fans don't really care. So I think that's what the problem with Vegas is they were a great Cinderella story gone sour. So I'm hoping that with Seattle, and I don't think you can compare them because, I think every when a franchise comes into any league, you gotta look at it as its own. It's starting up, it's new. It may not have success at first, but it's fun to watch.
yeah, I hope not. I think you summed it up perfectly. I think year one, everyone was cheering for Vegas, and then now slowly, honestly, I think Vegas might be one of the most hated teams in the league.
Yeah, and it sucks to see because Vegas had so much potential to be a such a great loving team to love because it's Vegas. It's fun. You have a drink, you go on the strip, and then you go watch a game.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. Like, I'm a huge Marc-Andre Fleury fan, but beyond that, I mean, if you took Marc-Andre Fleury off that team, like, yeah, I got to admit, they'd be very low. They'd be very low on my list. Like, they would be, like, Flyers are reserved for my most hated team, and then it's probably the Washington Capitals after that. But, like, I'm telling you, if it wasn't for Marc-Andre Fleury, and honestly, the way that they've disrespected Marc-Andre Fleury the last couple of years, like, Vegas is slowly, like, shooting down the list of my, like, teams that I like, very quickly. But
Before we pivot away, I got one question for you: is who do you think is
yeah,
going to
let's.
win the Stanley Cup?
I was gonna say, let's get right into that before we switch sports. I'll go first then. So yeah, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. Um, like I said, Montreal have built their playoff run on four things, like I said earlier. Thing number one is Philip Deneau and the just collective defense, Shea Weber, Jeff Petrie, shutting down the opponent's star players. They shut down Vegas's top six. Can they shut down Tampa Bay's top six? I don't think so. I mean, sorry, not Vegas. Can they shut down Tampa Bay's top six? I don't think so because their top six is just unbelievable. And then even if they do, like Tampa have four lines that can score. So even if they shut down their top six, their third and fourth line can steal a game. Um, so so the question is, can they shut them down? Maybe, and even if they do, it might not be enough. Then you have point two. Can Caulfield and Suzuki and these guys continue to score? I think they can, so I'll give them point two. Point three is the performances of Carey Price. I don't think Carey Price is going to fall off a cliff or anything. I still think he'll be very good, but Andre Vasilevsky is very damn good.
Yeah.
But so is Connor Hellebuck. And Price outperformed Connor Hellebuck. So can Price be the best goalie in this series with Vasilevsky? I think he can be, but I think that also Vasilevsky can potentially, match him. I'm not saying outperform him, because if Vasilevsky matches the performances of Price, I'm sorry, but I don't see a way that the Montreal Canadiens can win this series. Then you have four. Montreal's penalty kill, like we talked about, 93.5%. Tampa Bay's power play in the playoffs is 37.5%. Something's got to give. Who do I trust more between Tampa's power play and Montreal's penalty kill? At this point, I really don't know. So I'm going to say what I said in their series in Vegas. And maybe I should. Maybe I should be picking the Montreal Canadiens to win the Stanley Cup because at this point, they're going to fucking do it. But like I said against Vegas, I mean, I thought Vegas should be able to beat Montreal in six, but I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal pushes them really hard and honestly wins the series. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm thinking the same thing. I think Tampa are just absolutely too good, and they should win they should win this series. There's no reason why they shouldn't, but then there was also no reason why they shouldn't have just steamrolled the Islanders, and the Islanders pushed them to 7. So The Tampa Bay Lightning got past the Islanders. I think that they'll get past the Canadians and repeat, but I think it'll be a very similar series to the Islanders series. I think it'll go 6 or 7 games. The Habs will be right there the whole way, and they'll really push them. I have to pick Tampa Bay, though. I just don't see. I mean, I have to pick Tampa Bay. They're just too damn good. Although I will end this by saying I will be cheering for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't want I don't want Tampa to win back to back. I need the Penguins back to back cups in the salary cap era to be the only back to back Stanley Cups in the salary cap era. Um, from a selfish perspective, but also I mean I would much rather Montreal win the Stanley Cup. Good for a Canadian team to win it. Good for Montreal to win it. Huge hockey city. I mean, got to get Carey Price a Stanley Cup. Got to get Shea Weber a Stanley Cup. So I am hoping that Montreal wins it. I think Tampa Bay will win, but you know what? Fuck it. I'll go Habs in 7.
Attaboy. So here's the thing: is Montreal's a very disciplined team, and yeah, they've had some coaching issues in the sense of Ducharme had COVID, and now it's been the assistant. However, Ducharme is coming back for Game 3. It is confirmed. Um, I'll have Montreal in 6, and I think it's all going to come down to the discipline. John Cooper and his high flying squad are used to these high intensity, fast games. These very fast, very intense games. Montreal does not like that. They like to slow the game down, and I think they will. So much that it'll piss off the Lightning. They'll take some pretty undisciplined penalties, and that'll really hurt them. And I think even if they go on the power play, I mean, 31 out of the last 31 is 100%, which is unreal. And their penalty kill, Montreal's penalty kill, it's just been absolutely unbelievable. Carey Price has felt a lot of pressure this going into these postseason, and I think he's really been able to shut everyone up. As a Leaf fan, um, I would love to see it come back to Canada. I don't know if I would love to see Montreal win it, but they are the Canadian team there right now. And as much as I hate to say it, I do want Montreal to win the Stanley Cup, but I agree. I think Tampa will win it. However, I like being wrong and I like being right, and I would like Montreal to win it in 6 or 7.
There you go. The last thing the last 2 points I'll make quickly. Number one, I agree with John Cooper in the sense of we got to open up the Bell Center. Can we get 18,000 fans in the Bell Center for the Stanley Cup Finals?
Yeah,
Come on. There were 18,000 people on the street.
yeah.
So it can't be a COVID thing because come on. Come on. If you can have 18,000 fans jam packed together outside of the stadium, you can have 18,000 fans inside the stadium cheering for them. And two, I think if this series goes 6 or 7 games, I think even if Tampa Bay win the Stanley Cup, Carey Price might honestly win the Conn Smythe Trophy no matter what happens. The last time someone won the Conn Smythe on the losing team was a goalie. I'm completely blanking on who it was. I probably should have Googled it before I was going to make this point, but I'll Google it while I throw it back to you. But I think that if this series goes 6 or 7 games, and I agree with you, I think Montreal will try to slow the play down, and I think Price will be solid as ever. I think Price wins the Conn Smythe, win or lose.
I don't think there's an argument there. He's been the absolute best player, especially for the team he has in front of him. Vasilevsky, granted, he's been great. He's got that team in front of him. Braden Point won 9 games in a row winning with a goal. Steven Stamkos ridiculous on the power play. Kucherov, Hedman, you got Chernak and McDonough back there too. I keep forgetting McDonough's on Tampa Bay. I'm surprised he's still around. Very underrated player. Whenever you have your point, you can just jump back in and let me know. But Carey Price deserves it. There's just no question about it. Carey Price has been the best player for Montreal and arguably the best player in the playoffs so far. It's just, I would like to see, if Carey Price doesn't win this year, I think that's it. I don't think he's going to be able to win or have another chance of winning again, especially with the way everything's going back next season. So I would say, like the Leafs, this was the year, so this has to be the year for Montreal, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. This is their chance, and equally for Carey Price, for Shea Weber. The guy made the finals with Nashville a couple of years ago, and he's back, and he deserves it as well. So I did the research. 5 players have won the Conn Smythe on the losing side. They're all goalies. The most recent was J.S. Giguère in 2003.
Mm.
Uh, and then obviously 4 years later in 2007, he won the Stanley Cup with the Ducks in '07. Didn't win the Conn Smythe that year. I think the '07 Conn Smythe probably went to
It
Niedermeyer
was
from
Niedermeyer
just
that
off the
won
top
it.
of my head. I'm assuming Niedermeyer won it. But yeah, it's definitely possible. And if you're a goalie, and here's the other thing too, like you mentioned, this is Price's first Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, with all likelihood, it's going to be his only Stanley Cup Finals of his career. At least his only with Montreal. So I think that if they lose, especially with Canada, like all those voters, like I just think that the situation it appeals to the human in people where I think he'll win the Conn Smythe, win or lose.
If Montreal wins, this could arguably be one of the greatest Cinderella stories in recent NHL history.
Yeah, I think between the Habs this year and the Kings of 2012, it would 2014, the year the Kings were the 8th seed. I can't remember which year of
That was
it was.
2014, I believe, where they were down
It
three
was the
nothing.
2014 Kings.
I believe
Yeah, they
so.
were the 8th seed and they were down 3-0 in the first round to Peter DeBoer Sharks. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But with that, let's pivot over and talk a little bit about the Euros because the round of 16 has started. And I'll just throw it over to you. What have you been watching? What have you been keeping an eye on? What are some big storylines that you've been following?
Well, Ronaldo got eliminated today. Thank goodness. I think that Portugal was a little bit in over their head. And one of my friends who's Portuguese, she's like, "Oh, we played great. Yeah, but you didn't win. Like, Belgium looks so much better than you." And there's a lot of teams, like the Netherlands were supposed to do well, and they're out. They lost to the Czech Republic 2-0. Italy is probably by far the best to win, the most favored to win, if not England or France. Even Germany, you can even throw up there. Like, there's a lot of talent this year on these teams, and it's been actually very fun to watch for sure.
I have been very, very pleasantly surprised by the Italians. They look unbelievable. Now, they didn't look too convincing against Austria, but they got the win, and that's all that matters. And when I say that, I mean they were all over Austria. They just couldn't score until extra time, which, their next opponent is Belgium. Italy-Belgium is a huge quarterfinal matchup, and I think that that's going to be huge implications for the legacy of both of those countries, at least for this era, because obviously this Belgian team, golden generation, Lukaku, De Bruyne, like Hazard, these types of players, this is probably their last shot in the Euros, because 4 years from now they're going to be, probably past their prime. So this is their last opportunity, and this Italian team just looks well. I mean, they're literally unbeaten in their last 31 games, which is a record for Italy. So I think that that's just a huge heavyweight matchup in one quarterfinal. In the other quarterfinal that we know of right now, we have Denmark, who are playing for their teammate Christian Eriksen, who's been discharged from hospital, but obviously not playing after his health scare, against the Czech Republic, who just knocked off the Netherlands. So on one hand, you have this heavyweight clash. On the other hand, with Denmark and the Czech Republic, you have an opportunity for a dark horse team to make it through to the semifinals. And so I think that that's a huge storyline so far. And to your point with Portugal, now obviously Portugal won the Euros last time, 2016, but here's the thing that people don't realize. They tied all of their 3 games in the group stages in 2016. In the round of 16, they won in extra time. In the quarterfinals, they won in a penalty shootout, I believe. In the semifinals, they won in 90 minutes straight up. And then in the finals, they won in extra time. Jump forward to this year's tournament, they won against Hungary, then they lost against Germany, tied France, and then they just lost this game, which means that in the last 2 Euro championships, 2016 and 2021, they've only won 2 games in 90 minutes.
That's
One against Hungary, one against Wales.
not acceptable.
Which, on the surface, like you said, that's extremely disappointing. Now, that's obviously hidden way beyond the fact that they somehow found a way to win that fucking tournament in 2016, which, I mean, fair credit to them. Like, a win's a win. I'm not trying to discredit that at all. They genuinely won the tournament. They genuinely deserve to win it. This is coming from, obviously, a Greek fan who in 2004, Greece absolutely shithoused their way to a tournament, and people want to discredit them for winning every game 1-0. But, hey, a win's a win. It doesn't matter how it happens. So I'm not trying to discredit them from winning the 2016 tournament. They won the 2016 tournament. You can't take that away from them. What I'm saying is it's clear that there's a pattern of this is a team that is struggling to win games against the best teams in 90 minutes. And now, obviously, if it's a tournament and you win in extra time, that still counts as a win. But, I mean, it is frightening because they had 4 points in the group stage this year. They had 3 points in the group stage back in 2016. And look, that's good enough to make it to the knockout stages in the Euros where you have these third-place wildcard teams. But in a World Cup where it's not, it's the top 2 in each group move on, 3 or 4 points, 4 points some years is enough, but not always. 3 points definitely isn't enough to move on in a World Cup. So if I'm Portugal, I'm concerned because you have to win games. You have to put up more than 3 or 4 points into group stages, or else you're not going to advance to knockout stages of tournaments. And honestly, at the last World Cup, 2018, yeah, they got out of their group, but they had a huge scare against, I believe it was Iran.
I think so.
That's a very winnable game, and that can't be a stressful opportunity for you. So yeah, Portugal, I mean, and the other thing is there is so much talent on that Portuguese team. And look, Ronaldo, sure, he scored a lot of goals. They were all penalties or tap-ins. Exactly. I don't think Ronaldo had that great of a tournament.
Exactly.
If I'm being honest with you. I don't think he did.
Yeah.
Certainly. No, go ahead.
Thought it was average. Thought it was like just average, not even below average. Yeah, you're right. He scored on the penalty a few times. So what? I could score on a penalty.
Yeah, and I mean, is it being critical? Absolutely. If he considers himself the best player in the world, I consider himself the second best player in the world after Messi. The standard as the second best player in the world is above the standard that any other player has. Ronaldo needs to be the driving force for this team, and I don't think he was. Bruno Fernandes was unstoppable for Manchester United this season, absolutely invisible for Portugal this year. Diogo Jota for Liverpool. He was a spark for Liverpool this season when they were dealing with a lot of injuries. He was invisible. Rui Patricio in the net. He needs to make that save on that Belgium goal. I just don't think that their elite players played at an elite level at this tournament.
I thought Portugal had a pretty average. Like, Denmark has been playing better than them. And Denmark, like when we talk about on Cinderella stories, lost their best player, and they're on to the round of 8, is it now? Semifinals?
Yeah, they're on to the quarterfinals. And, you know, if I can be really bold, speaking of big teams that aren't playing particularly well, I've been very disappointed with France.
You know what?
Very disappointed with France.
Yeah, Griezmann and Mbappe have kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I've been extraordinarily disappointed with France.
For a team that's defending World Cup champions, you think that, and especially what Mbappe's been for his team this year, not just France, but his soccer is like his club, it's disappointing. You know, you'd expect this guy to score at least once every game or have at least 2 or 3 good chances, and he's not.
Yeah, I mean, in the Germany game, like obviously he scored a phenomenal goal that was offside. Well, you're offside.
Yeah,
I don't care if you're offside. You know, if you're an elite forward, you shouldn't be. I mean, I swear he's been offside literally every single chance he gets. He's been offside a lot. They beat Germany. I thought Germany were the better team in that game.
Yep.
But they won the game. So I mean, sure, you won the game, but they didn't have a great performance. They were outplayed by Germany. Then they tie Hungary. Now, the game was in Hungary. There were 60,000 fans. I get that that's a factor. If you're the defending World Cup champions and you're trying to be the best team in the world, you have to beat a team like Hungary. I don't care if you're playing in Hungary. You have to win that game. And then they also tie Portugal.
Yeah.
They've scored 4 goals in 3 games.
That's just...
Which, I mean, isn't terrible, but like you said, this is supposed to be like the most potent offensive team in the world.
Yep. They're supposed to be
Now
better than
they
this.
Yeah, now they play Switzerland, which I think should be a pretty comfortable win for them. But then they have to play. Oh, now my mind's. Then they have to play the winner of Croatia Spain. I don't think that's necessarily a gimme, especially the way that they've been playing. And then if France wants to win the tournament, their path will go through Belgium or Italy in the semifinal. And the way I see Belgium or Italy playing, and the way I see France playing, I think that quarterfinal between Belgium and Italy, whoever wins that game, in my opinion, is going to the finals. Whether they have to go through Croatia, whether they have to go through Spain, whether they have to go through France, I think that right now, the way all those teams are playing, I think Belgium, the way they're playing right now, beat France. I think Italy, the way they're playing right now, beat France.
It's really tough because France is on paper, they're such a good team, and it's so disappointing to see them playing like this. I was excited to watch these Euros, especially France and England too. Like I was like England I've been impressed with, but France has just been not good and not fun to watch. They're such a good team, and they should be playing so much better than they are.
I mean, the other thing, and speaking of not fun to watch, England plays such boring, boring football, man. So boring. 1-0, 0-0, 1-0. And look, sure, it's effective. They won 2 of their 3 games. So I'm not going to knock their but and I think that they honestly England I think that the manager Gareth Southgate, he's made some mistakes. I don't understand how Jadon Sancho hasn't played. I don't understand how Jack Grealish wasn't starting games earlier. I don't understand the positions. I don't understand the formation. I don't understand. They have so much tremendous attacking talent, and they're playing such a negative defensive style of play. And look, I understand that defense is very important. Listen, you're talking to someone who watches the Greek national team put 11 players behind the ball for 90 minutes every time they play. I appreciate what good defense. But England does not need to play a defense. Like, England does not need to have 2 CDMs against Scotland. I'm sorry, Scotland are not an intimidating attacking team. They're not. You don't need that much defensive cover against Scotland. You put all of your talented attacking players on the field and tell them, go score goals for us. Same thing with the Czech Republic. Look, the Czech Republic having a phenomenal tournament. They rightfully beat the Netherlands in that game. I don't need 2 center defensive midfielders against the Czech Republic. I don't.
Right.
I don't get it, and it'll be very interesting to see how that performance goes up against a German team where, you know what, maybe against Germany you do need 2 central defensive midfielders, but I think that if England plays too negative, like too defensively against Germany, if they allow Germany to dictate the tempo and pace of the game and allow Germany to control the play because England's so defensive, I don't think that's a winning strategy. Like, once again, if you're a weaker country, I understand you defending and sitting back and soaking up pressure and counterattacking. Like, Austria survived 90 minutes with Italy playing that exact strategy, and they scored a goal. It was offside, but they scored a goal that was very marginally offside. And if VAR doesn't exist, Austria knocks out Italy. If their striker was 1 foot to the left, Austria win that game 1-0, despite Italy dominating the play. England are not Austria. England are one of the best teams in this tournament on paper. I don't understand why they're so committed to playing this defensive negative style. I don't think it will work for them. The way I see them playing, I think they'll lose to Germany. And remember, I thought Germany would tie Hungary, which they did. I'm taking credit for that, and would get knocked out of the group stages, which they didn't. They ended up beating Portugal, speaking of disappointing teams. So I am not a huge believer of this German team, considering I didn't even think they'd get to this point, but I'm picking them over England because I don't like the way that England have played.
You're right. I don't know why Sancho hasn't got Jaden Sancho, right? I don't know
No,
why.
Jadon Sancho is literally one of the best players in the Bundesliga this year.
Yep.
Phenomenal.
Yep.
Not even on the bench. Not even on the bench. He came on 5 minutes as a substitute in the third game. I don't get it.
I don't honestly. I don't understand it. He's 21 years old. He's got so much potential, and you're right. The England's game is just boring. It's like the Islanders. It's boring and it works, but it's boring. No one wants to watch a game like that. Um,
I mean, it hasn't even worked though,
I
because
know. Like,
0-0 with Scotland. 0-0 with Scotland. I mean, to use the hockey comparison, it would be like if the Tampa Bay Lightning were playing like the New York Islanders.
it's like that
But
happened.
it's like, yeah, it's like you don't need to play like the New York Islanders because you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. You have Nikita Kucherov. You can score goals, right?
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, like it's like keeping Braden Point off the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are playing like the Islanders. Like it's the stupidest thing ever, and I don't know what the hell he's doing or what he's not doing. Um, it's as someone who's British and English, it's not fun to watch. I haven't watched a single England game. I watched 5 minutes of the first game and I said this is stupid. I haven't watched a single one since. So I mean,
I watched them play Scotland. I started cheering for Scotland after like 20 minutes.
yeah, like it was bad. It was not fun to watch at all. Um, I just wish that England's game plan was included Sancho in the lineup, because not only is it good for the upcoming World Cup in 2 years for him, but he's one of the best players in the Bundesliga. Play him, and he's only 21. He's young. He can run. He's got. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. Final thoughts. The last thing I want to mention with the Euros is, as I mentioned before, I am all in on Ukraine. They're playing Sweden on Tuesday in the round of 16. Go Ukraine, baby. Go Ukraine. Have they been playing well? Absolutely not. Am I disappointed in their group stage performance? Absolutely. Are they playing a lot worse, like a lot worser? I don't know how to speak English anymore. Are they playing worse than what I thought they would be playing? Yes. Do I still have full faith in them to make the finals? No, but they're gonna do it anyways.
Listen, man, if Montreal can win the Stanley Cup, Ukraine can win the Euro 2020. Anything's possible in this year.
Hey, I just need them to make. They don't need to win the whole damn thing. I just need to make the finals. So if they can pull Montreal, like if they can get to where Montreal is right now, that's all I need from them, man. That's all I need from them.
It's not gonna happen. I'm sorry, but yeah, I would like to see teams like Denmark or Sweden or Ukraine, like teams that don't get as much recognition as they should, go further than they're expected to.
I mean, that side of the bracket is wide open. I know we were talking. So Denmark and Czech Republic are one quarterfinal. And then the other quarterfinal on that side of the bracket is the winner of Sweden, Ukraine, and the winner of England, Germany, which is why England or Germany will consider themselves fortunate. Like they have the easiest path to the finals,
Right.
because they will then have to play the winner of Ukraine, Sweden, which you would assume that Germany or England could beat both of those teams, and that they could beat Denmark, and that they could beat Czech Republic. Obviously, they have to go out and actually do it. But it's definitely a lot easier than whereas on the other side of the bracket, you have France, Spain, Croatia, Italy, Portugal, Belgium.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when your opponents are, not those powerhouse teams. So it's definitely possible. I think that one of those underdog teams will make the final. I don't think England or Germany will make the final on that side. I think it will either be, I think a Czech Republic, a Denmark, a Sweden, or a Ukraine are going to make the finals of this tournament.
It's more than likely.
I really do.
Like of any year to do it, man. Like for underdog teams, it's the year to do it. This is the year.
That bracket is wide open. That bracket is, and you know what? I'm pulling for Denmark. I think it would be the greatest thing if Denmark win the tournament off the back of that Christian Eriksen thing. And I mean, I'm also a huge Kasper Schmeichel fan, who's the goalie, and Now this isn't. I'm just going off of my general knowledge. I'm assuming that the Denmark won the Euros in 1992. Actually, for anyone who doesn't know, look it up. It's a crazy story. Basically, they didn't qualify for the tournament, but they got to join the tournament as a late replacement, and then won the whole damn thing. It's actually like the craziest underdog story you'll ever hear in your life. I really suggest you look into it if you haven't. 1992 Euros. And I'm pretty sure Peter Schmeichel, who's Kasper Schmeichel's dad, was the goalie for Denmark, because just going off of the timeline, he had to be. Without even looking it up, I'm like 90% sure that was true. And so Peter Schmeichel, legendary goalie for Manchester United, wins the Euros, wins the Premier League with Denmark and with Manchester United. And then for Kasper Schmeichel, growing up in his dad's shadow, to then go on, he's already won the Premier League with Leicester. If he wins the Euros with Denmark this year, I'm a huge fan of Kasper Schmeichel, and I would absolutely love that.
That would be one hell of a coincidence, like coinciding stories, man. Like that would be crazy if that happened.
Hey, GOAT father son goalie combo. That's all you need to know.
Oh, Matt, like Gretzky's and like the Brodeur. Martin Brodeur's son is the best goalie in the AHL, or was the best goalie in the AHL.
Damn, there you go.
Yeah.
Where the Devils need him. They're slamming their credit card on the table, TikTok meme style.
All right, man. It's who do you have winning the entire thing?
Yeah, so I mean, I've when I submitted my bracket, I have France beating Ukraine in the final. I went bold. Oh, speaking of going bold, shout out to FC Wonder Kid. If you haven't seen the TikTok, it's hilarious. It's the guy, he's going through his Portugal starting 11, and he pronounces the Portuguese names like the authentic Portuguese way. But it's just so funny because I think everyone is so shocked at like the pronunciation, and like I tried to do the correct pronunciations too, talking about it. So like his name isn't Bruno Fernandes, it's Brun Fernandes.
Wow.
But like he went like overboard, so he's like, yeah. So starting at left back, I have Nuno. His name is Nuno Mendes, but like it's actually Nuno Mendes because you like don't pronounce the E. It's weird. But he went like way far where he was like Nuno Mendes, and he just like completely like got rid of half the letters. Then it's really funny. Shout out FC Wonder Kid. It's a funny TikTok if you haven't seen it.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, and then people started making jokes out of there, like when I go to McDonald's, it's like, yes, can I get a June chick and chick nug? Anyways, any final thoughts?
If Montreal wins the Stanley Cup, will the city of Montreal burn? Oh, here's a question I got for you. Will the city burn more if Montreal wins or loses the Stanley Cup?
And Montreal's not Vancouver. They won't burn down the city if they lose. I mean, if they win, it will be a good. If they win, Quebec might just secede from Canada and become their own country at this point. Honestly,
They'll be the city of the Canadiens.
If Montreal wins the Stanley Cup, there will be a third referendum for Quebec to become its own country. the patriotism, like not even the patriotism of Canada, the Quebecoism will be at an all-time high.
Did you know that they advanced to the Stanley Cup final the same day it was their national holiday?
Yeah, it was Saint Jean Baptiste Day.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyways.
Just there's so many. It's such a great story the Canadians have been, and that's coming from a Leaf fan. A lot of people.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people on like the Leaf stuff I follow. It's a crime to follow Canadians and cheer for them. Like, guys, come on, shut up. Just for one season, like we did nothing. Like if Canadians win the cup, I'll feel so much better because the Leafs lost to the champs.
There you go. Yeah, no, for those of you who don't know Quebecois holidays, it's essentially the Quebec equivalent of like 4th of July for any American listeners, or like Canada Day. Yeah, so it's their huge like national, or not national because it's only in Quebec, but huge like Quebecois holiday. and it was the day that they made the finals. Yeah, Montreal was rocking that night, and then literally police. I think they used tear gas. Honestly, I thought I saw news reports. I don't know if those are true or not, but like the police definitely had to get the crowd to disperse because of like COVID and all that bullshit. But like I'm telling you, open up Montreal, open up the Bell Center. We need 18,000 fans. Maybe don't pull the New York Islanders and throw beer cans on the ice to celebrate your team winning, which was another thing that we didn't mention. Um, Islanders fans, you want to explain that? Um, but anyways, yeah. With that, this has been another episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast.
Quick thing before we go. The Atlanta Hawks are beating the Bucks 44-39 with 6 minutes to go in the first half.
Trae Young is the greatest basketball player of all time.
Uh,
Of all time.
okay, let's keep the bold predictions to a minimum here, buddy.
Balding Trae Young is better than Hoodie Mello, is better than like Headband LeBron, is better greatest player of all time. Obviously I'm joking, but like the guy's been absolutely unreal these playoffs. I'm still on the Phoenix Suns bandwagon though. The Suns are winning the NBA championship. You heard it here first.
Do you know
Devin
how
Booker's gonna break the Kardashian curse.
Do you know how crazy it would be to have like a Suns Hawks final? Like that's so unorthodox.
Yeah, we're actually literally at the beginning of the year. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's gonna be Nets versus Lakers in the NBA, and it's going to be Avalanche versus Lightning." Or, well, I guess the Lightning's a bad example because they actually made it. And it's going to be Lightning, or no, it's going to be Avalanche versus Boston, and then we literally got Montreal.
The Leafs. The Leafs are going to be there too.
Yeah, yeah, and then we got Montreal, and we're gonna get Atlanta or Milwaukee and Phoenix. And also, can we talk about the fact that the Clippers are in the Western Conference Finals for the first time ever, and Kawhi's injured? Like, how?
PG.
It's also the funniest thing. Nah, he sucks. Hit some free throws with less than a minute left in the fourth quarter. I will always slander Paul George. It's actually so funny though because the announcers will be like, "Oh, there's a huge three for the Clippers," and Kawhi Leonard loves it, and then they pan up to Kawhi Leonard in the press box, and the guy's literally just like standing there, blank face, like talking to one of his kids.
Yeah, he's just it's funny. Also, before we go, I'd like to kind of address what's going on with Chicago right now. Do you know much about it?
I can't say I know any of the details. All I know is that apparently there was like a bunch of sexual assault allegations, and then apparently it was covered up by like everybody, which like once again, unfortunately, it's not that surprising, and I hate the fact that like it's not surprising, but I'm sure you know more details than me, so I'll let you talk about it.
So there was it was kind of an open secret that one of the staff was asking players, for oral sex, I believe it was. And so when they won the cup, like some of the players out there, I can't actually remember who the players were, but they were kind of talking about how it was an open secret that everyone knew about this, and management didn't do anything. Mark Bergevin was part of that team. He commented today. He said he had no idea what the allegations. He had no idea about the allegations. He doesn't want to associate himself with that, which I honestly believe. I mean, as much as you don't like the guy as a Leaf fan, like he's a pretty honest guy. Um, Obviously we can't really tell and we don't really know because we weren't there. But then the trainer or something went to go teach at a school and he sexually assaulted a student there. So it's more than likely that what he did was possible. And now the Blackhawks trying to cover it up. This happened a few years with Penn State football. I think it was last year. I don't know if you know about that. It was kind of the same thing with one of the training staff was sexually assaulting or was accused of sexually assaulting some of the players, and it kind of got swept under the rug. And Penn State now football is like Penn State normal football. So, it's really disappointing for sure that they tried to cover this up for years, and huge ups to the players for coming out because that's extremely difficult to talk about, especially being a pro athlete where you have to keep this kind of sense of persona and you have to be a public figure and coming out about stuff like this 11 years ago probably wouldn't have made as much of a impact as it does now. So it's really disappointing that no one on that team or in that franchise came out and did anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that whole open secret. I mean, look, one of the thing about hockey culture and sports culture, there are so many great things about it. You know, like that sense of community and not just community, but like friendship and brotherhood or sisterhood. Because you can get really close with your teammates, and they honestly do become like a family. And there are so many great things about sports culture and just that closeness, that bond. Like the passion, the love. Like you saw, Alec Martinez was playing with a broken foot in the playoffs, and like that part of hockey culture is beautiful. But then also there are some really bad parts of hockey culture that it's glad that it's getting talked about, and it's glad that we're slowly starting to see a shift. But obviously that's one part, and still a very toxic aspect of sports culture, not just hockey, but we do see it in hockey of just some really nasty stuff. I mean, obviously, there's been a huge crackdown on like a lot of hate speech being said by players, and now obviously there are more and more sexual assault allegations coming out. Which we've repeatedly said, it's good that these allegations are coming out because we know that they've happened. They've just been hidden, and like you said, this whole open secret thing, like that's obviously really hard to listen to and see that something like this would have been going on and people would have been aware about it and no one would have taken action. Like you said, I guess better late than never for something like this to come to light and for some action to be taken. But obviously, when you hear something like this and hear the words hidden or open secret or not doing anything about it, obviously that's concerning, and it's an aspect of our game that doesn't belong there and you want to see removed. But like you said, you were taking positive steps, and with you mentioning football, another huge story that we forgot to talk about just because we were focusing mainly on the Stanley Cup and the Euros. But Carl Nassib, not sure how you pronounce his last name, but he came out as gay. He's the first active NFL player to come out as gay and actually be on a roster. I think that's just a huge step. Like we said, we talk about there's this sort of toxicity around sports culture sometimes, and obviously you want it to be a welcoming place to everyone, but just because you want it to be doesn't mean that it always is. And having an openly gay player and have someone in the community be openly gay and be comfortable sharing that is huge for trying to fix that culture and trying to actually have everything be have it be a welcoming space for everyone, not just say that it is, but actually have it be one. And that's a huge
I
step.
believe a couple of hours after he came out he was gay, his jersey became the highest selling jersey in history of the NFL, like in a span of like 24 hours. So, um, huge, and I think a lot of the reason why all this is coming to light, and because 11 years ago, like it probably wasn't as accepted, and people probably wouldn't have believed it as much. Which, as sad as it sounds, it's true. These are professional athletes. Like, who? What could possibly happen to them? This can't happen to them. They got people watching them, and like mental health, especially for a lot of men, 11 years ago wasn't looked up as much as important as women. So it's good to see that in 2021 it's a lot more accepting for people, and a lot of people are more understanding and actually will take a lot of the side of the victim a lot of the time, which is actually really good to see for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we were able to mention all this stuff because important stories to talk about, and it's good to get that information out there and to talk about it. So yeah, I'm glad that we were able to include those last couple of stories at the end. But now, with that, we thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know who you think is going to win the Stanley Cup, who you think are going to win Euro 2020 in 2021. And we'll be back next week where We'll talk about what's going on in the finals, whether any of our bold predictions were correct with the Euros. We'll probably have the NBA Finals matchup set by then as well. So, as always, a lot of stuff to talk about, and we will see you next week. But until then, thank you so much for listening, and bye.